Welcome on into BKL Nightly. This is the Let's Talk Ball edition. I'm Thad Brown. He is Carl Jones. Every single week we break down the X's and the O's, take a look at the all-22 from every single Bills game. This week it'll be the last Bills game from the 2025 season. We're talking about the Broncos' divisional playoff loss. We will not include any Zapruder film level discussion of the Brandon Cooks rule. This is not what we're doing here. What we liked, what we didn't like from the game. And as always, Carl, we start on offense, as we almost always do, and as we also almost always do, we start with the quarterback. And this was one where the film did not really tell you anything different that you didn't see on Saturday night. Josh Allen looked bad when we saw it the first time. He looked bad when we saw it the second time, too.
Yeah, that wasn't the situation that you needed your quarterback to probably have his worst game of the year. And I know the narrative floating around there that, Josh isn't this is a playoff quarterback, yada, 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 letting people down. I think multiple things can be true at once in this world that we want to live black and white. Oh, my gosh, there is nuance involved in these conversations. Josh Allen was spectacular this season, and he's the only reason that he even had a puncher's chance in that game to get to that point in Saturday against the Denver Broncos. Having said that, when you have a quarterback of that magnitude who commands that much money, who is that fantastic, was the best player on planet Earth for the better part of 24 months now, you can't put the ball on the ground 4 times. You can't skip a few balls on the ground on screen passes. You can't miss Dawson Knox for a game-winning touchdown. There's just so many examples, and there were a couple throws where he maybe could have threaded the needle there, but he turned it down. And listen, I get it. The circumstances around him weren't great. When you are constantly under duress with a great pass rush, your brain short circuits a lot. We talk about that a lot on this program. But he picked a bad day to have a bad day, and I think that's just where it lands with 17.
And that's the thing. It wasn't even like he was under duress the whole game. I thought the offensive line on the whole played fairly well. Not all of them. We'll talk about one guy that I thought did not have a particularly good game in this one. But there were throws to be had. And even on the Dawson Knox miss, Brandon Cooks is also open on the left side of the field. And it looks like that Allen is trying to go low to high. Kincaid's covered. He goes to Cooks further down the field. Cooks is a throw he could have made. Okay, you don't want to. That's fine. By the time he gets to Knox, it's 3 seconds in, he's got traffic in the pocket. I mean, that's not because the protection's bad. It's because the quarterback is not processing fast enough. He had a couple misses that didn't burn them because they scored a touchdown later on the drive anyway. But it was just over and over and over, not just the plays that stuck out, the small things, the decisions. And to your point about the fumbles, look, people have talked long about how Josh Allen is a great playoff quarterback because he doesn't turn the ball over. But what he does do in the playoffs is put the ball on the ground. He just got fortunate in that those fumbles weren't being recovered by the other team. That luck ended against Denver. There really isn't much more reason to harp on it. It really is. We kind of talk a lot on this program about how sometimes the film is better or worse than what you saw. No, it was exactly what you saw. There really is nothing else we can add. It was bad on Saturday. It was bad when we watched it again later. The thing that stuck out to me that I thought was noticeably good in this passing game was Brandon Cooks. And as much as he's been a factor, we've talked about it as, look, he's good, but he's just better than what's around him. He was flat out good in this game. He cooked Pat Surtain on an early possession for a third down conversion. Now, Surtain, I think, was in more of a trail look there, so it's not quite one-on-one, but he's still winning the route. He was open way more often than he wasn't. It got to the point, Carl, where I'm like, wow, yeah, there are receivers in the league that do get regular separate. This does happen to other teams. And for once in this game, it happened for the Bills.
The fact that he trusted him more than anyone else this entire season says a lot about the guys they had in that room. Says a lot about how they utilize some of those players as well. We talked about it. But just the juice that he brought to the table stood out from every other player they had on the team. Even McCole Harmon, I know he is straight line fast, but he doesn't have the same get up in and out of breaks like a Brandon Cooks does. That third down rep was flawless. I don't care if it's Pat Surtain, Trey White, Christian Benford, or me in my 27-year-old state with my bad hamstrings. He was amazing on that rep. Obviously, the catch, no catch in overtime is his own thing. But the fact that he's able to get down the field with that giddy up says something in his own right. It's unfortunate that it took them until week 21 or whatever it was to find a guy who had that type of juice. But it was encouraging to see at some point this season, hey, the Bills got a receiver that can win one-on-one.
You're right, though, that the hands were a bit of a question. That was the play at the end of the game is a unique one, but he had a number of plays through the year which were kind of double clutch catches, didn't quite hold on, had the one he dropped early in the New England game on the road. So the hands weren't great, but the separation was there. And like I said, it was mind-boggling to be like, wow, there are receivers who can do this on a regular basis because Cooks did it in this game. Anything else with the passing game in particular for you before I move on to the run game a little bit?
I think this is a good opportunity for me to say what I thought about Joe Brady, and I guess you can tie it with pass and run. I thought he actually
I was going there anyway, so go ahead. Yeah.
Man, I thought he actually called a good game. I truly do.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about the circumstances that he was under, with his run game that was cooking early on, but it's not his fault that James Cook puts the ball on the ground. It's not his fault that his quarterback treats the ball like a loaf of bread right before a half. It's not his fault that his quarterback underthrows an interception driving into the red zone. The end of the game interception is his own thing. It's not his fault that Khalil Shakir completely butchers a chip route where he literally puts a turbo up Nick Benito's butt and leaves Deion Dawkins no chance to make that play there. That's not Joe Brady's fault that his slot receiver failed in that department. And Josh honestly didn't help there with his drop that was probably a little too far deep. So I think that I thought he caught a good game. There was a couple screen passes where he's saying, listen, I know our guys can't win against pass Surtain. Let's get the ball out quick and make these guys tackle, get these guys on the perimeter. How many plays did you see James Cook one-on-one for Surtain? That's exactly what you draw up all during the week. I want number 4 up against a cornerback. We know cornerbacks don't want to tackle like that. So I know we've been critical of his play or his call this for majority of the year. On that day, Joe Brady was a big reason why they even had a fighting chance in overtime.
I think it might have been his best game of the year. I think top to bottom. All the things you said, and let me pile on that. Some of the designer stuff was really good in this game. The 3rd and 5 run for Josh Allen out of 0-1 formation that we haven't seen all year. That's exactly what you want your offensive coordinator to do. Give me something we haven't shown all year that we can convert a money down with. And he gave it to you. It was an easy conversion. The guy has now 3 hook and laterals that have worked in the same season. I don't know anybody who's pulled that off. And this was not only, look, he did it, but he did it in the right spot. The first 2 were on 4th down. This was 2nd down. This was a little different look with the running back leaking out of the backfield. He also won with Curtis Samuel, a couple stop and return motion plays. The first, the one that Josh Allen threw over Samuel's head, I don't know who the defensive back was. I think it was McMillan. He almost like gave up on the play. He's like, I'm out. I got hosed on this one. I'm done. So this was over and over and over. There were a couple things I quibbled on late. Like I think in overtime, they ran a 2-man route with Keon Coleman and Dawson Knox. And I'm like, you're not winning with those guys. But for 97.6% of the game, this was an exquisite piece of work from your offensive coordinator, and Joe Brady deserves his flowers for that too. With the run game, James Cook was good and everything was good early. The other one quibble I have with the Joe Brady game is when it got later in the game, especially in overtime, you could tell he had kind of run out of ideas, that there just wasn't a whole lot left in terms of what they were able to do in the run game, and Denver started taking stuff away. They ran the counter run that they've been running all year. The one they ran in overtime, I think Denver put literally 17 guys in the hole where the ball's about to go and stuffed it. The sweeps they were running all day, Denver was able to figure that out. So to your point about not having answers, you should have answers in the run game. At the very end, I think Joe Brady did run out of stuff to make it work, at least on the run side.
But I thought that he brought enough to the table to at least get them there. The pulling out the RPOs
Sure.
in the manner that they did, I thought was excellent. The Khalil Shakir play for those at home, the long pitch and catch, that is a run pass option, which means Josh Allen has that option to either hand it off to James Cook, dump it off to Khalil Shakir. I think there was another boundary route that he could have hit, or he could have kept it himself. And I think that's another way. That's an extension of the run game. RPOs are basically extended handoffs down the field that turn into pass plays. So I do want to give him his flowers for that. And listen, at some point, it turns into a Jimmy's and Joe's game. X's and O's can only get you but so far. I thought offensively, and we'll talk about the defense in a second here, they did enough to get them to the party there. Unfortunately, the execution just wasn't there when they needed it most.
With the offensive line, again, I thought on the whole they did a pretty good job. I thought Spencer Brown had a fantastic game. He had a number of combination blocks that were impressive. The one guy I want to call out, though, a little bit is Deion Dawkins, who I charted him for 8 pressures allowed, which the way I chart it is a ridiculous number. A large number of them, it wasn't like he's getting beat and allowing a defensive end to come scot-free on Josh Allen. But he'd do a couple where he has that snatch trap block where he'll grab a guy and kind of throw him to the ground. Well, when he throws him to the ground, he kind of throws him to his side, and it ends up at Josh Allen's ankles. Now the quarterback's got to move because he's got traffic down there. It just felt like Deion Dawkins could have been, with some of these blocks, a little more, I don't know if the right word is effort, but certainly make further sure that you're preventing the defender from getting anywhere close to the quarterback as opposed to just throwing him down with the snatch trap. And then there was one late in the game where he'd been seeing a bull rush all game from Nick Benito. They bring another guy, and I think it was Tillman, who just jukes around Deion and creates an immediate pressure. There was a run rep late in the game where it's a sweep going away from him, and backside pressure from his side really makes the tackle. There just were little things where You expect an 8-year left tackle who's a former captain, leader on the team, to be a little more aware, a little more on the ball, because when you go to overtime and lose, those little things matter.
It's funny because heading into the year, we made an argument that that's probably nah, we probably didn't put them over the Eagles, but like that's the top 3 tackle pairing in football with him and
Yeah.
Spencer Brown. And I know Spencer was banged up for back half of the year, but I still think he played well considering that he had one shoulder by week 12 or whatever it was. Uh, those two were supposed to be the pillars. And listen, they were excellent in the run game, but in the games where we talk about matchup fight, like college football, I'll equate this to college football for a second here. When Ohio State plays their roster, there are only like 2 games that you say there are matchup games, where there are games where, hey, you're playing against somebody that is your equal. What are you going to do when it matters most? And I thought there were 3 or 4 games where the tackles had equals. You think about the Texans game, you think about the Eagles game, you think about the Broncos game, and I felt as if more often than not, they lost those battles. Most in particular, like you just mentioned, 73 just didn't have his best showings in those games.
Yeah, you go back to the Texans game. I thought he was not very good. I mean, both tackles were not very good in that game, but there was a lot from Dion, and we brought him up from time to time on this show, not necessarily being bad, but not living up to what we would expect from a guy who's been to multiple Pro Bowls, or a guy who's done it at a high level. And look, he's into his 30s. Maybe that's a part of it, but this was overall just not a very good year from Deion Dawkins. And this playoff game was kind of the perfect summation of that. He was still good on the whole, but what you need out of that guy in that level, in that spot in the season, you just did not get. Anything else from you on the offensive side?
No, I thought Kincaid played well. I mean, a hell of a pitch and catch
Yes.
on the touchdown in the fourth quarter. Good to see him healthy, but like we talked about ad nauseum, I just don't know how he fits big picture and what you want to do when a tight end can't do half of his job, which is blocking. But we'll talk about that. We got a whole offseason for that.
I'll tell you what, though, he actually blocked fairly well in this game. This might have been one of his better blocking games, and I'm glad you brought him up because that jogged my mind for something else. We talked all last week about how without Gabe Davis and Terrell Shavers, how the Bills going to block with receivers. Curtis Samuel had a nice game. Curtis Samuel had a few, especially
He
early
did
in this
stick his
game.
face in the fan. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, where he was really effective as a blocker. All right, defensive side of the ball. And I want to start kind of at the very end of this game because of how the Bills played the second half. First half, it wasn't very good. They allowed the 20 points. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't very good. Second half, they come out and it is attack, blitz rundowns, blitz on pass downs. And the Broncos had nothing for it. And then on that final drive, you get into the first 3rd and long, the one where Nix is going to hit the 25-yarder to Cortland Sutton. They show blitz and back off, which I was not a huge fan of, but whatever. The part of that play that really hurt to me was a guy that we have been lauding all year long, or at least I thought, Cole Bishop. It felt like he crept up and tried to attack the 6-yard route on 3rd and 12 and got beat over his head for 25.
Yeah, I think that's how I saw it as well. That it just can't happen in that moment, especially a player that you count on. And I know he's in year 2, but I think for my money, if someone were to tell me who's most likely to be an all-pro next year on the Bills defense, it would probably be 24. I mean, he was that impactful the back half of the year. But in that moment, you needed him to just do his job. Got a little greedy. You rally to the short stuff on 3rd and long. You make sure that you keep the top on everything else. So when you watch it live, you don't think much of it, but then it takes 2 seconds to see it on film in the all 22. You're like, yeah, man, you bit the cheese. You were like the rat in the restaurant, man. That's exactly what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to get that cheese. They trapped you, hit it right behind you for the first down. Just can't happen in that spot.
Give me the rest of your take on the final 2 drives, or the 2 scoring drives for Denver, because after that, they hit the stop and go against Dane Jackson. I didn't think the coverage was bad. I just think it was a pretty good throw and catch. A couple pass interference penalties also. But the Broncos had a number of 3rd down conversions in this game where they were able to make enough hay to keep things going. End of the first half, another one for me. We'll get that in a second. But just lay out to me, when people ask you, well, Carl, they were dominating the second half. What happened at the end? What's your answer to that?
I think it's twofold. We talked about it all week. Bo Nix may not be a lot in the first 3 quarters of the game, but for whatever godforsaken reason, 4th quarter and in this situation overtime, everything slows down. He's the most frenetic quarterback I've ever seen that somehow gets more calm in the clutch. Makes 0 sense. I ain't never seen nothing like it. And it kind of played out like that on Saturday, where I'm watching him like in the early 3rd quarter and he dropped back to pass, and I'm like, brother, you do know your brain is connected to your feet. Why are you in the pocket happy dancing like you Michael Jackson and the ball not coming out? It was weird. Final drive, he just calms down. He makes the throws that needed. He leaves the pocket when he has to. So I do want to give a bunch of credit to number 10. He met the moment which required of him on Saturday. Then I also felt as if the end of the game, legs getting tired on defense. You need your pass rush to win. They weren't getting that job done, quite frankly, all day. I think the Broncos had their third best day in terms of pressure rate allowed all year long. Can't happen in that situation. And we talked about it. Hey, this is the best tackle pairing that the Bills are going to see all year with McGlinchey and Garrett Bowles. Then also felt as if they got a little passive is the wrong word because on the final drive they heated him up, but at that point we're just throwing prayers up and praying for pass interferences. So I thought it was a bad combination of Bo Nix met the moment, the pass rush wasn't winning, and then there were some situations where I thought there was some passivity instead of attacking the Broncos like they did for the majority of that second half.
I think you're right. Like passiveness is not the overall word to describe it, but more passive than they had been for the first four possessions, enough where Denver was able to take advantage. The other thing that really got me, and this was right from the very start, and it didn't last on every possession, but it kind of cropped up and down here and there, was the tackling was atrocious at times. And look, there was a play early in the game, maybe early in the second half, where Matt Milano had RJ Harvey dead to rights on the outside and just whiffed. A play that Matt Milano 3 years ago never misses. The one that absolutely killed them was in the overtime. You've got second and long, and you dump it again to Harvey. And this time it wasn't just Milano. It was Shaq Thompson and then Milano and Bishop together. And Bishop missed a number in this game too. It hasn't been a problem all year, but it has been a problem multiple times. And if you want to rank things the defense did wrong in this game, tackling for sure makes the top three for me.
Heading into the game, I saw a stat where the Broncos were the best team in terms of yak on short throws, and the Bills were the best team in terms of tackling
Mm-hmm.
and yards allowed. It doesn't show up a lot because you can think of many plays where the Bills did a good job of tackling in space.
Sure.
But in the postseason, every play matters, and those plays where they missed tackle all came on third down. You get off the field there. Like we bring out the punter and you win. It's a success. But instead, Cole Bishop misses that one-on-one on the left sideline. Matt Milano misses the one. Bo Nix gets up the right sideline. I know that wasn't technically a missed tackle, but a miscontained there. You're supposed to bring down the quarterback in space. Just those 3-4 moments ended up. We talked about it all year, like, man, Falcons game, they can't tackle. Cam Lewis missing the tackle in the hole in Miami, and I can go down the list of other games. It starts to add up in the postseason, and it starts to reveal who you actually are as a team.
When it comes to the back seven, anything else that you want to hit on here? I mean, I want to bring up the Darnell Savage play to kind of go over that a little bit. But I thought Taron Johnson and Trey White and Christian Benford in general were what we expected from them most of the year. Pretty solid. Some misses here and there, but I think especially CB had a pretty good game. But secondary or linebackers for you?
No, I thought all of those guys you just mentioned, I thought they had a good game. Good enough to win. I don't think that those guys were problem 1, 2, 3B through whatever in terms of the issues on Saturday. The Darnell Savage play hurt, though. I was watching the game here with my sports producer, Mike Courtney, and right as we saw it, I was like, dog, like that's you learned that maybe not one-on-one, but that's 104. Like that's like the fourth day of practice where like, hey man, if you are the back half safety, nothing crosses your face. Nothing. And for whatever godforsaken reason, I am not in his shoes. We've all made mistakes there. He got a little greedy, overran it a little bit. That's a play that like every offensive coordinator dreams of. Oh man, if we can get that backside safety creeping a little bit, we'll hit it right over his shoulder. And that's exactly what happened because Sean Payton, you know as well as I know, as soon as Cam Lewis left that game, red dot treatment. Where he at? Who coming in? 3-5? Oh, yeah. We at his neck. Touchdown, strike up the band.
It wasn't even like he overran it a little. He overran it a lot. He attacked it in a way that I didn't understand why you're doing. Now, look, any number of things could be going through his head.
Correct.
He's trying to make a big play on a big team. He's in there all of a sudden, a couple plays, trying, like you said, being aggressive. But boy, it was bad. And on the sideline, too, I went over and watched him on the sideline. He had hands on helmet. I felt bad, because this is a guy trying to make a career, and he knows how bad that mistake was, and it was pretty awful for sure. Up front, give me your take on the front four. I know there's not going to be many good things. I do have some good stuff out of there, but especially with Joey Bosa, this was not the game the Bills needed him to have.
I thought Greg played solid. I truly do. Like I thought if Greg had like a little bit more push from the other side, there were a couple plays that he could have made. But unfortunately, on the other side of him, 97 just chose, quite frankly, a bad 2 weeks to have his worst 2 weeks, even dating back to Jacksonville. Obviously, the roughing the passer that no one mentions because of the controversial play. Like, roughing the passers are usually controversial because it's like, man, the ball just came out. You feel bad for the DN, stopping your momentum. It's tough. I get it. Brother just two-hand shoved him. Like, I don't get that. Like, it was about as bad as that dude who tried to knock out Fernando Mendoza yesterday. It was kind of crazy. But just in that moment, it's all about the front four pressure because you can't manufacture but so many blitzes in that time of year. You'll usually get carved up. You need your guys to win, and unfortunately, m- none of the guys won enough. But I thought at least 50 did cleared the bar on terms of the edge guys.
That Bosa shove, that's something he's done a few times this year and gotten away with it because it was a little closer to the throw. That one was not even close. In fact, if you could even say, was that as dumb as the Josh Allen end of the first half play and have a decent conversation about it because it was so late and he gets a total pass for it because of the pass interference on the play. The guy I did like in this game was Deion Walker, who was just named to the PFWA All-Rookie team. And we talked about it last week with Deion Walker, that with him most of the year, you'll get 2 or 3 splash plays and then everything else is just replacement level. This game was not that. He was active in other ways. Now, look, he needs to be more consistent. There is still too much of a liability to his game to feel good about having him out there all the time. But this game, to me, was the one you sit down and say, if we're going to make this guy kind of the centerpiece of our defense as a defensive tackle, if I get more of this and maybe a little better than this, I can certainly live and maybe even thrive with 96 as a priority defensive lineman for me.
He's 21 years old or 22 or however old he is. And we've been around the sport long enough. Usually the big fellas take a little bit longer with their trajectory, grown man strength. They got to learn how to win at the next level. He was already a player who was raw in college. So I'm not shocked that he's inconsistent at the next level. For whoever the next defensive line coach and defensive coordinator and head coach are, I'm sure that they are salivating to be able to work with him because he has a lot of tools. He shows some flashes. You just got to make sure that he's consistently good, not occasionally great.
Sean McDermott is no longer the coach of this team, but his last game as a defensive coordinator, kind of sort of, was pretty good. The adjustment to go attack in the second half worked. Again, I think we both think they could have done it a little more towards the end. But I think, Carl, overall, for him and Bobby Babich, this is probably their last game. This is an example of why this guy is going to be a very coveted commodity the next few months, if not the next few years.
I know the stat floating around there that, like, hey, in all of their playoff losses, they've given up 30 points. This is the one game out of those I think 5 or 6 playoff losses. I can't put it on the defense. I believe the offense gave up 13 directly off turnovers. Like, Josh handed him 3 just because he just decided to play jackpot right before halftime. And then I just thought that with how well they played defensively, with all many bodies that were missing, I get it. You lose Dane Jackson in that spot, I probably need to go 2 high safety at that point. 1-on-1, 1 high safety, that's asking a lot. And I get it. You put Darnell Savage in there. I don't know, coach him up, have him better prepared. I don't know. I'm not in the building to know exactly how he was prepared for that moment. Maybe he was. But I thought, all in all, if there was some criticism for how he coached this year and this team, Saturday was not one of those situations.
Let's look ahead to next year now and what this roster is and maybe what it needs to be. We'll start on offense here. I think the question of the offensive line is simply just, can you bring back David Edwards and both Connor McGovern? For me, if you have to choose one, I'm going to go on record as saying Edwards is my guy. I like the athleticism. I like the way he's able to move around. I like the smarts of talking to him. Beyond that, I mean, you don't need to be me and you watching the All-22 all the time to know what the issues are. It's receiver. If we were going to go receiver, or if you wanted to go somewhere else, what type of receiver are you looking for? What kind of guy do you think Josh Allen needs? Because we've seen the number one alpha with Stephon Diggs. We've seen small, fast guys. We've seen big, slow guys. Where would it work in terms of what Josh Allen would thrive with the most going forward?
I think that he needs an outside the numbers wide receiver who can win down the field. I think that is the archetype that would unlock the rest of this offense because don't get it twisted. If Jamar Chase said he wanted to come to Buffalo, you get on the damn phone, you find a way to get Jamar Chase to Buffalo or Justin Jefferson or Puka Nacua and all that. But in terms of just an archetype of a receiver, talking big, fast guys, vertical stretch, who can do what Brandon Cooks did for you, but he's 24, 25 years old and not 32, 33, however old Brandon Cooks is, and he's outside and he can win some of those contested catch situations. And the name that comes to mind is obviously Brian Thomas Jr. They had a chance to maybe go up and get him a few years back. You don't know what his situation is like down there in Jacksonville right now. Alec Pierce is a free agent. He's 6'4", 4'3". Now, I don't know why the Colts will let him out of their building, but if he does, you get on the phone with him and say, name your price. Players like that. I took a look earlier. Mike Evans is a free agent. That's a risk. He's 32, but he's 6'5". He's still got some juice to him. He looked good this year, even coming off with a broken clavicle. But that type of archetype of receiver, they haven't really had in Buffalo, and I think will really unlock some of the underneath stuff they got going on.
Would a Cortland Sutton type work too? I mean, I'm trying to find
Yes.
what the bar is here, that
Yes,
kind of thing.
yeah, like he doesn't need to be a star receiver. Like I
Mhm.
just think someone that just commands attention outside of the number, so Josh Allen isn't throwing into New York City traffic in the middle of the field because everyone's clogged right there.
Would you blow up the tight end room at all? Obviously, Jackson Hollis ain't going anywhere. But in terms of from a pass receiver point of view, you feel like you're kind of locked into Kincaid and Knox contract wise. Even let's say, without looking at it, even if it's going to hurt you a little bit on the cap, would you make the effort to go find somebody else there, or is the receiver upgrade enough for you probably this offseason?
I think the tight end room, it is what it is. Ideally, I would like tight ends who can play all 3 downs, but Kincaid is what he is, and you just got to make the bed that you laid in with that situation. But I think receiver is far more important than tight end. I know that maybe there's some qualms about how much you can get out of the tight end room. It's a good tight end room. It's one of the better ones in football. I don't think you really mess with that too much.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's at least a plus room with the way Hawes played this year. I didn't think Hawes had a great game against Denver, but he's a rookie. It don't matter. That dude is a rock solid blocker for you, and it's a great find in round number 5. Flipping to the defensive side of the ball. I'll start with this and tell me if I'm wrong. I think the secondary is good. I wouldn't even touch it. I think Rapp, assuming he comes back healthy, and if that's a question, then they'll have to address that. But Bishop, Taryn, Trey White with Max Hairston on the other side, assuming he develops year 2, Christian Benford. I don't even, I don't feel like I need to do Cam Lewis as your kind of do it all replacement guy. I wouldn't touch that at all.
I think that you maybe want to get some competition for Rapp though, because I don't, lower extremity injuries are always unique with skill position guys. And then the Taron Johnson situation. I know they technically pushed his money forward, so he probably is on the team contractually. But even some competition for him for whenever that cliff comes, because I saw the play dip a little bit this year, but I still feel comfortable with him as a starter heading into next year on paper.
Good point on seeing the play dip a little. I agree with that. What do we do at linebacker? Because Terrell Bernard is in theory the athletic archetype you want. Shaq Thompson, that dude found the fountain of youth this year. I'm not going to totally just shove him out the door. Matt Milano is not under contract next year, and the contract they built was probably such that he was not going to be back next year. I think that might be okay considering his age and his injury history. Dorian Williams is a fine backup, and that's it. Where would you go at that spot?
See, I think when the next coach gets into the building, defensive coordinator, whoever it is, they're going to look at the secondary and be like, oh yeah, these archetypes fit no matter what the system is. I feel much differently about the front 7, most notably at linebacker. You mentioned Shaq Thompson, you mentioned Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano. Who is to say that the next head coach wants linebackers who are all outside of Shaq sub 225? Like you asking me, do I want them back? Who's the DC? I don't know.
Right.
Like there are certain DCs out there who have non-negotiables and say, hey, listen, you got to clear a certain height, weight, and speed threshold, buddy. You got to eat a couple PB&Js to play on my team. So I don't know. Like if this was Sean McDermott's team, I think you would feel comfortable with moving Bernard over to Will, making Shaq your Mike, and then drafting a linebacker if and when one of those guys get hurt. But a DC coming in here, like for example, I'm trying to think of a DC who probably like the Chiefs, for example, they love bigger dudes. Drew Tranquil, big dude. There's one of their Neil Schnall, big boy. What if that type of DC says, yeah, TB, I'm sorry, you got to play safety for me. You too small. So I can't sit up here and tell you who fits going forward.
All right, we don't have time to get into the defensive line any more deep, I think, or any deeper, but I think it's easy to say that lots of guys, lots of better guys. Yeah. I mean, I know they spent a lot of draft picks on it last year. 10 seconds. Number 1 priority. Like closing your eyes, it doesn't matter who's on the board, whatever. The Bills should take what in round 1 this year?
Wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm there too. I think all things being equal, that's the way I'm going to go. All right, that's going to do it for us for this season. We appreciate everybody who watched and listened on YouTube, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This show will be there. All the rest of our shows will be there as well. We will do more shows in the off season. Me and Carl do like to get into the draft and, watch some of that film and talk about those guys. Won't be on a regular basis, but there will be more of the Let's Talk Ball editions of BKL Nightly during the season, and BKL Nightly in general will be on 2 times a week during the off season for sure. So for the last time in the 2025 season, my name is Thad Brown. His name is Carl Jones. Thanks very much for watching the BKL Nightly Let's Talk Ball edition, and we will see you again in 2026.